Thanks, Paul. As he mentioned, I'm Jason Somensatto. I am 2 weeks into being the new director of policy at Coin Center. I assume a lot of folks here already know the organization, but for those of you who don't, it is a independent nonprofit that focuses on education and advocacy. I guess maybe I'll start by explaining the kind of education piece because that overlaps a little bit with my history with the organization. So I have known Peter and the team for about 10 plus years at this point in time, back at a time when I think they were one of the first organizations here in DC really focused on educating policymakers on these issues. And I got connected because I had written an article on, hey, maybe the SEC is going to take a closer look at all of what folks are building and putting out here. And I ended up writing the first securities law piece for Coin Center as like an explainer of how crypto might intersect with that. And so, after our paths crossed there, I basically had spent the last 10 years, being close with them. I know many of you are as well, had a lot of great intellectual conversations over the years. And so it was a very natural transition for me to join when I got the opportunity recently. On the advocacy front, we focus primarily on issues around developers' rights to deploy code, to participate in these networks, to preserve, constitutional rights to privacy, leveraging this technology. In some ways, that differentiates us a little bit, and I think one of the things you'll hear when I talk about my bio a little bit is I've been at a few places that I think people have strong views on, which is Coin Center takes a pretty limited role in this ecosystem in trying to keep very focused on those core issues. There are a lot of interest now in this community, and there's a lot of smart people, including people here, who are representing those folks. And so on issues around, market structure and stable coins, as you'll hear from my bio, I have strong views on these things, but we try to keep a very focused, principled area where we are spending our time. But it's kind of this nice balance between engaging on the education around those issues so that the advocacy principles that we hold really dear to us, we have the space to make those pitches. I've alluded a little bit to my background, but I joked that I was like a respectable, normal lawyer for a long point in time, in like 11 years in different firms, and then kind of got wrapped up in writing about this crypto world when it was a pretty, at least a smaller community of lawyers focused on it. I eventually went in-house to a company called ZeroX Labs. They are kind of one of the original DeFi teams. They're not super large now, but they are a great organization of groups. And back then it was me and a couple lawyers thinking about like, what does the term DeFi mean? How do we explain this? From there, unexpectedly, probably to many, but I went into the government. I went to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, where my first position was as the head of Lab CFTC. And through that, the innovation office that was outwardly facing, but also doing a lot of internal education to folks within the commission. In that position, I spent a lot of time educating a couple of the commissioners, including at that point, Commissioner Benham. Him and I got along very well, and I joined his office as an advisor, specifically focused on crypto, and that was a pretty fun experience for me. I spent 2.5 years basically dealing with Congress very closely, on bills that would impact the CFTC as it relates to crypto, dealing with all the other interagency processes. I'm a little sensitive when folks say all the terrible Biden administration folks. I try to think of myself as a reasonable, thoughtful person. I joke that the government is more decentralized than crypto is, and so you have to understand it's not all bad people there. And I always thought he was very thoughtful and forward-leaning into how to address issues in this ecosystem. From there, I transitioned out. I kind of was smart in terms of beating, Doge coming in and maybe getting rid of me. I went to Chainalysis for about 1.5 years, or a little bit over, as their head of U.S. public policy before this opportunity became available. So I've seen this industry from a lot of different angles. I know a lot of folks here. It's been really great, but really excited to join Coin Center. As I said, it was kind of such a natural fit. I've heard a lot of people say to me that oh, this is a great fit for you. You guys are going to be perfect, which actually scares me a little bit because I think every career decision I've made in crypto, people are like, what the hell are you doing? And like that's worked out. So I'm like, oh, when people are confident, this can't go well. So really looking forward to getting started in this role. I will just note one thing that kind of a news item, I guess, to some extent. Yesterday, we actually hosted our first event, so in DC, that is. So Coin Center has obviously been very public and is around at a lot of events, but never really established its own event in DC. Yesterday, we hosted about 40 to 50 folks, invite only. There was a mix of people from the industry, developers, folks from the administration and the executive branch, as well as staffers from the Hill. It was a great conversation where we touched on a lot of the issues that come up here around kind of what is necessary for privacy and AML legislation to allow for privacy developments in this ecosystem. Another area which you're going to actually be hearing more from on us soon is around digital identity and talking a little bit about the developments in this technology that will lead to hopefully real concrete progress on that front. And then last, just kind of a discussion of like, what do we see as the most important policy asks in the near future? I think as everybody knows, there's going to be a big, broad discussion around stablecoins and around market structure. At Coin Center, at least, we've been strong advocates for the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, which would, hopefully as part of some of these discussions, bring up the idea that it is also important to make sure that we're clarifying that, money transmission requirements don't apply to the developers in these ecosystems. Happy to talk about all of this and a lot more, but thank you guys for the time and nice meeting you.